The stock suspension on our E36 took a beating in the desert a couple weeks ago. Which kind of makes sense. I mean, it's the desert, the suspension is stock, it's old, it's soft, and you won't hear me say this too often about stock suspension, but it's a little bit too low. So this week on Money Pit, we're gonna install a set of coilovers on the E36 so that we can get a little bit better handling and some more ride height for some more ground clearance for rally stuff. Let's go, baby. Large thanks to eBay Motors for sponsoring today's video. By now, we all know eBay makes it easy to buy a car and all the parts you need, but they also make it easy to sell. How easy, you ask? Well, now you can ship and deliver your vehicle and parts directly through eBay Motors, which is honestly pretty cool. So for any of those spare parts you got lying around, like I've got plenty of, or that unused car taking up space in your mom's garage, well, with just a few clicks, you can have it up and available for purchase. And thanks to eBay's option for vehicle inspection, you can sell with confidence, as an inspection is gonna increase the buyer's trust in your vehicle. So clean out that garage and start selling today by going to the link in the description below. Now, let's get back to throwing some money in that pit. Like I was saying before, when we took the E36 out to the desert, the stock suspension felt super soft and it felt super stock. And it was also a touch too low. As it turns out, there's a lot of rocks in the desert and I was running over a bunch of them. So I think we could stand to jack things up a little bit. So we could go crazy and we could do long travel suspension with longer control arms and really jack this thing up and almost turn it into a Baja truck. But we're trying to be a little bit budget minded here with this build, so I don't think that's the move. So we're just gonna go with an off the shelf set of coilovers. Let's take a look at what we got. I know, I need a haircut. So, here's what we've got. We got a set of BC Racing's DS series coilover, and I think they're gonna be great for the task at hand. Obviously they give us ride height adjustability, so we'll be able to raise the car. They should handle a lot better, they're built for performance, and they give us control over our damping, so we can soften it or stiffen it as we want, which is really nice to have, especially when you're trying to tweak a car to do better at a certain thing. Now, the only thing we have left to do is install them, and that shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. Probably only take us about 4 hours, maybe 5 since we're filming. Always takes a little longer with the camera around because I'm always making sure do I look good? How do I look? All right, now before we go jacking this puppy to the moon, let's take some measurements and see where we're at now in terms of ride height and ground clearance. So I'm just gonna walk around and do the old finger measurement here. Looks like about 1 finger at the rear. And then I'm actually gonna measure our ride height just from the bottoms of the side skirts at the rear and the front. So we know how much we've lifted the thing at the end. So I know how big of rocks I can run over. 6 inches on the money. See how level she is. 7 1/8 at the rear, 6 at the front. Write that down. I know, I'll remember. I got it. Steel trap, 3 fingers at the front. So I think we're gonna increase ride height, so we'll have a bigger gap here and we'll increase our ground clearance. Now, this is only one part of this whole puzzle. Obviously, we're gonna do some wheels and tires, and I'll let you in on a little secret. The tires that I'm going with are gonna be a little bit bigger than these ones. So I'm planning for that too, and that'll also increase my ground clearance. So, at the end of today, this is probably gonna look pretty stupid on these wheels, but that's okay. Project's not over. We're not done here. Don't judge me. Yet. All right, well, with all that said, there's nothing left to do but do it. So, we'll start with the front. Pick your stuff up, Felipe. Show off, you know, so here we go. Stop. This is what I was talking about. This is why it takes longer when we film. First time taking these wheels off. You'll notice a lot of Euro cars do something a little bit different than a lot of the rest of the cars in that they use lug bolts instead of lug nuts. Like that. And that can make it kind of tricky for installing wheels and getting the holes lined up, and they kind of fall off when you take off the last bolt. So eventually we're gonna switch that up to studs. But for now, it's bolts. Oh! Smooth, I know. So we just gotta disconnect the top from the chassis and the bottom from the suspension, and we'll also need to remove our sway bar end links because the new coilovers are gonna use a new type of end link. They'll connect in a different spot, but that's no big deal. Just a little wrenching, baby. All right, so we've got one bolt remaining that's holding things together on the bottom here, right in the side here. So I'm gonna take that off, and when I do, that's gonna disconnect the suspension from our hub, our spindle down here. So I'm gonna put the jack in place just to keep that from flopping off and banging me in the knee or, you know, what have you. And I've got a nice little hockey puck on here for touching things without messing them up. Hockey pucks are great for that. Okay, so now the bottom is disconnected. All we gotta do is remove our 3 nuts up here, and this piece of suspension is out. Okay. Oh, come on. There we go, one old Beetlestein from Germany. Let's replace it with a BC from Florida. Now there's no left or right to these, there's just front and rear, so this is a front, it could go on either side. And we'll go about adjusting our ride height once this is installed. I could loosen this now and do it by hand, doesn't really make too much of a difference. And we want to make sure that our camber plates are in so that we can adjust our camber, which means the slots will go this way rather than, you know, like this, because then we wouldn't be adjusting camber. Okay, now I'm gonna get this in place. Watch it, fender. There we go. We'll bring up our hub to meet the coilover with the help of our jack. All right, so that's basically one corner done. The only thing I have left to do is put on my new sway bar end link, but I gotta wait to do the other side because the sway bar is not the same right now. It's still connected to the driver's side with the stock end link. So if I tried to put this one in, I just wouldn't be able to. So once I get that side undone sway bar wise, then I can come back over here and pop this guy on. But I'm gonna worry about the big part, which is getting the coilover in first. Me and my tools will meet you over there. Those puppies are mega tight and I can't get an impact gun on them. So I'm gonna use this big strong thing I have. Okay, now just them toppers. Okay. You know, I said no big deal adjusting ride height after the fact, which is true, but this is a lot easier than doing it after the fact. All right, so we got the front coilovers technically in the car. They are installed. Now the only things that remain to be done with these fronts are to adjust ride height. But if I'm gonna adjust ride height, I might as well do it when I can adjust all the ride heights. So we're gonna leave the fronts at this point for now and work on the back. Get those installed, and then we can do things like adjust all of our ride height and install our sway bar end links. So let's go to the back. Okay, so to get the rears in, we're gonna have to disassemble a little bit of the trunk interior lining, but that's okay. I mean, ultimately, this stuff's all gonna go anyway. We're gonna strip this thing. So I'm gonna remove the carpet and that kind of stuff, and that should allow me to get to the upper mounts for the shock. That's what I look like without a shirt on. A couple of cutlets. Come on, baby. 2 fresh trunk carpets for sale now on eBay. I'm gonna support the suspension here with the jack. Just touch it up, and then Pull off the lower shock hardware. And now the jack's the only thing holding up against the spring. So in the rear, the spring is divorced from the shock here. So now we can let this down. So now with that down, our spring is relatively loose and we'll be able to get it out. Now I can go up in here and remove the two 13s in the trunk and get our shock out. Ejecto. Okay, now we just gotta get the spring out. There's the spring. Let's go take the other side out. Okay. Now all we gotta do is put the new stuff in. Whew. All right, so this is our rear suspension setup. The springs are still divorced from the shocks. So this is how we adjust our ride height, these adjusters that'll go at the top of our spring. So these are a little bit less easy to adjust in the car. Definitely doable, but a little less easy. So I am gonna spin these up and try to at least get closer to where I want the ride height to be, which, you know, we're just gonna go most of the way up. And that's just hanging proud a little bit, so we'll match this up on the other side, just so they're even. Now let's put this in. All right, now we got the spring in, so all we gotta do is put the shock in. Felipe. Okay, see our nice little bump stops in there. I'm gonna get some zip ties and zip tie these dust boots in place so they do their job. And then we can put those in. Okay. Okay, so now we're on there. Now I'll use the jack to bring this up through the holes in the top, then we can put the nuts on up top with our reinforcement plates. Let's not forget those. All right, now we got our suspension in place, and the last thing we got to do before we bolt it up is just sandwich on these reinforcement plates. The sheet metal that makes up the rear shock towers in the E36 is a known weak point, and it's not super uncommon to blow them out. These look really good right now. This car is in great shape and the sheet metal is in perfect shape. I mean, it's a California car, but we are gonna be beating the living daylights out of this thing, and I was already feeling a little bit bad for the shock towers when we were in the desert. So these will just sandwich in place and help distribute the load delivered by the shocks to more of the shock tower rather than just the areas where the nuts are. So these should help keep us from blowing any holes in the back. Okay, so we got the suspension installed at all four corners, and it was pretty easy and not all that time consuming. But now we gotta adjust them and set our ride height. So I'm just kind of taking a stab at it. I've got all my suspensions adjusted to what I think is gonna be a little bit taller than stock ride height. I'm not trying to jack this thing up to the moon, but I do wanna increase a little bit of height. So we're just gonna go with this, put the wheels on, put it on the ground, and see where we're at, and move on based on that. Let's find out where we're at. Well, after just putting a wheel on, you can see that ride height is not very increased, and when we put the car in the ground, that's gonna even close up. So, we're not gonna go any further with this. I'm gonna take the wheel back off and jack this thing up a bit more. Go ahead and match that up on the other side. See where we're at. This is easier to do when the coilover's out of the car. All right, let's throw some wheels on that and see what we got. Well, this is promising. I think, you know, this will obviously compress a little bit, but that's about what we want there. Still don't have it. Not bad. We went from 1 finger in the back to a solid 3. You can even get 4 if you're trying. And then on the front, we went from about, I think, what do we have, like 2.5, 3? Now we've got a pretty easy whole hand. Let's see how much ground clearance we've gained. 8.5, 8 3/4, and then we're at about 7.5. I think that's about where we're gonna stay for now. Obviously, we'll change this a little bit when we put on our other wheels and tires, but until we do that, I don't know exactly how I want this stuff to fit because it's fitting around wheels and tires. So we're gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna tighten down on my lock collars, all the adjustments, make sure everything's good and tight. Call this done. Now let's go drive this thing and see how it feels. Now these BCs are still gonna be comfy, but I think they're gonna be a little more, performance oriented. Just driving off the curb there to see how it feels, you know, as you do, and it feels fine. No strange noises, that's always good. Everything feels nice and tight, and that's what I want. You know, it doesn't really feel wobbly yet. I guess I gotta get into some turns, but it really feels a lot tighter than it did, even though I jacked it way up. I guess that's what you get when you put nice new coilovers on a car, huh? It feels firm yet supple, if that makes sense. Like, it feels kind of like if I hit a jump, we might survive it. Ooh. But you feel so planted, so secure. It was really kind of, you know, super soft and just wallowy everywhere before. But now this thing is a taut performance machine. And I won't hear any differently. Oh, hell yeah, baby. I mean, I guess it's no secret, but a good set of coilovers is a great addition to any car that you want to drive better than it does currently, at least in my opinion. It always makes it feel like a new car in the best way. I mean, she's back in action, baby. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree? Are coilovers worth the time, money, and effort? I say hell yes, they are. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys had a good time, maybe learned a thing or two. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram at ZachJob and follow Donut at Donut Media. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday.